So starting at this first one,
Hmm.
so as you Darius can be a pretty tough matchup into most top laners. Uh,
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
always looking to get some early trades and just abuse that his passive stack as well as just his base early damage, which is always insane. So the trading stance can be summed up by saying by standing on the dying minion. So
Right.
right here, this minion that I have circled, it's it's an interesting interaction because, and the reason the trading stance works so well is you want to walk up to last hit this minion, but because he's standing in the place that he is, it moves you up into his auto attack range, and
Hmm.
that's kind of the whole concept of the trading stance. Uh, it puts you in a position so right now you are being he's applying the trading stance to you,
Right.
and so you have to make this choice right here. First, you have to be able to identify that he's in a position to apply the trading stance. Then you have to decide, okay, do you go for the last hit or do you look for a retaliation trade onto him? And
Hmm.
there may not necessarily be one right answer. Right here, Darius has the advantage. We're looking to give some respect to him. So
Right.
there are situations where because they're applying the trading stance on you, um, you either have to look to use like your ranged ability, like your Q, to hit it,
Hmm.
um, or you just have to give up that minion.
Hmm.
Um, and so translating that over to like Pantheon, um, so say you're Pantheon instead of Darius right here, and you're
Hmm.
playing against an Alai who's looking to walk up to get this minion. This puts them in a position where either you can just throw your Q at them, or they're going to be walking into range of your W. And let's say you just hit level 2, that's going to be a perfect opportunity for you to look for that all in.
Right. Right.
And so what it does, so say the Olawai is, you've already chunked her down with spears and she's half health. You're standing right here where Darius is. She knows you're looking to go for that all in.
Hmm.
So she has to make the choice. Either she's not going to respect you and she's going to go in for the minion and you're going to be able to punish her and go for that all in, or she's
Hmm.
just going to have to let that minion die. And
Right.
that's what the trading stance can turn into is it's either going to allow you to look for a trade or it's going to force them to give up that minion. And both of
Right.
those are huge wins for us. And
Mm-hmm.
so this kind of battle of back and forth going for the trading stances is a big part of the early laning phase. Especially in top and mid, it's a little bit different in bot side because you have two players, um, so things can get a little interesting. Um, but the trading stance, and especially outside of like master and challenger, where things maybe get a little more complicated, and like
Sure.
minute things start mattering a little bit more. Trading stance is going to be one of the biggest things to look at and uh, building an advantage in the laning phase.
Okay.
Understanding how to use it in your advantage, understanding how to play around it when the opponent's using it on you. Um, and so, one of the other benefits of the trading stance is it. So when the enemy champion goes to auto attack a minion, they're frozen in their animation for a while, and that gives
Hmm.
you a chance to, if you can predict where they're going to be when they start their animation, it makes it very easy for you to line up your skill shot. Um, and so you actually kind of perform the trading stance here. I don't know if that was actually what was on your mind, but we have this
Sure. Sure.
minion that I have squared. Um, it moves a little bit, but right here you can tell he's about to start walking up to last hit
Hmm.
this minion, and you go for the E, and it lines it up, makes it super easy to hit.
Right.
And this actually ends up being a very beneficial trade for you. And
Mm-hmm.
so a
Minion
big
game.
thing to consider when either applying the trading stance or having the trading stance applied against you is, especially early on, is the number of minions that are there. And so on this second one, if I click on it right, you go for the trading stance here. And right now it's not, what Darius does is he chooses to go for the retaliation trade. He sees you're going to go for the trade on him, so he starts trading back on you, which is at first the right thing to do for him. You know, he's got the stronger early damage, but you actually play around this very well. So the second he attacks you, those two ranged minions start attacking him back. So right now, the trade's sitting pretty even, and then when he chases you back into here, he's got all of these minions piling on, especially the cannon minion, which is, you know, doing 40 damage a shot, and you walk out of this trade, you know, let's see, you have about 600 and he's seeing only about 300. So a lane that is supposed to be not in your favor early on, by just using the trading stance once and then having an understanding like, okay, he's coming into my minion wave, I'm going to be able to deal more damage to him, and his lack of understanding of that has already put the lane in your favor.
Right.
And so that's probably one of the biggest things is it's the trading stance, minion waves, and then the last thing I would say, the last concept that's playing a big part of the early laning phase is lane control. And so minion wave can do three things. It's either going to push away, push towards you, or it's just going to sit still and freeze. And so understanding which one you want the minion wave to do and understanding how you can influence it to do the one that you want it to do. So, and figuring out, so a lot of the answers to the questions that we have, like, do I want to go for the trading stance here? Or when he's putting the trading stance on you, like, do I just want to give up this minion? And as well as, okay, do I want to push the wave? Do I want to let him push the wave? A lot of this comes from pre-game, like looking at the matchup, understanding the matchup a little bit, looking at the team compositions. Like at the beginning of the VOD, you know, I took the time to kind of go through and just do a quick analysis of what champions we have, what champions the enemy team has, where the strengths lie, who has the early game, who has the mid game, and that just helps me get a better understanding of how the game is going to play out.
Right.
Instead of finding myself in a situation where something happens and I need to make a quick decision, instead of having to in that moment quickly try to analyze everything and come up with the right answer, I already have like a general guideline of, you know, what I'm looking to do and what the current state of the game is.
Right. So you make a lot of load screen observations. And
Yeah,
decisions.
absolutely. And especially playing as a team. Take a quick sip of water. That's going to be one of the most important things is one, you know, it kind of depends on what you're going for, you know, and the level you're trying to play at, because you know, drafting is the first thing that happens. You know, are you looking to draft like champions that everyone else considers meta, or are you just trying to get, you know, your team onto champions that they enjoy playing? But either way, you want to make sure that they're taking the time to like figure out what kind of plays they can make, where their strengths are, what their general objectives are. So, you know, the simplest one is Malphite. Like, it's so clear what he wants to do. You know, he's not looking to completely dominate laning phase. He's looking to get tanky, show up the team fights, and press his R button and just devastate in team fights.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the kind of things you're looking to do. So we're allowing to Darius. Whenever I see Darius, I'm like, okay, he's going to be looking to play aggressive early. He's got a pretty strong early game. Alawa is going to need a little bit time to scale, but once we do start scaling, if we don't give Darius a lead early on, he's not going to be able to touch us.
Right.
So as I come into the laning phase, this minion right here, maybe I just go ahead and I just give this minion up. I don't give him a chance to... If it would play... I don't give him a chance to look for any early trade. I just either go for my Q. I think you started... Wasn't sure if you started Q or W here.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But kind of things like that. And so going back to lane control, and this kind of implements the junglers a little bit, but we don't want to put ourselves into a dangerous position because we're looking to play safe, we're looking to scale up into the mid and late game. So this might be a situation where we either want the lane to freeze kind of right in the middle, or we want to let him push the wave towards us so we can kind of freeze it a little bit more back here where we're going to be able to have our turret as some extra defense against Darius.
Right.
And so that's kind of the three things going on very early in the laning phase that macro-wise. It's the trading stance, each champion looking to find advantages to trade on to their opponent and put some pressure on, gain a health advantage, zone the other person off some farm, and then it's lane control. What waves are shoving in, what do I want the wave to do, how can I do that? And so it's kind of like a mind game, and it's something you can take advantage of if the other person isn't quite thinking it through to that degree. If you just backed off and gave Darius some room, it's likely that he would just continue to push the wave into you.
Mm-hmm.
And by just only last hitting, you're going to allow that wave to push to you. And then once it gets to a place a little bit closer to your turret, you can start to thin it out a little bit and just kind of keep the wave so the number of minions are even. And it just puts you in a place that's a little bit safer, allows you to farm up. But if you wanted to... So big thing in bot lane, or actually all related to Pantheon trying to get to level 2.
Sure.
Say, you're playing like against a Riven, someone else who's looking to get that level 2. You two are going to be battling over who gets to shove the minion wave and get that first level 2. And so how you can test them for that is by applying the training stance. So it's kind of this little dance of trying to shove the wave while also securing lane control for yourself, like securing dominance of the lane, forcing them to back off and like they can't contest you anymore. And so it's kind of like a little dance of that, like trying to secure lane control so you can either push for the lane advantage, or you can freeze it near your turret and deny them the ability to break that freeze. And so that's kind of the main things that are going on and being fought over during the early parts of the laning phase.
Sweet. Sounds good.
Yeah, so it's just did just throw out a lot of information. I just kind of got on a roll and just kept talking.
No, you're
yeah, so please interrupt if I'm just like going too fast.
No, you're good.
I just had all that on my mind.
Yeah, that's fine. A lot of it is, well, not a lot of it, but some of it is good repetition from stuff that I've been looking into, and some of the resources you already sent me, and it's good to be shown like specifically what I did, because you can watch LCS and you can watch, Platinum, Diamond, whatever level players, and be like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. But seeing like me doing that
Mm-hmm.
is helpful. So you're good.
Absolutely sweet. And so these are just the things that, depending on who you're working on in your team, um,
Hmm.
even the beginners to someone who's a little more advanced. Do you have kind of like a have you got an idea of like what variety of skill levels you have on your team?
Yeah, I have a gold 3 jungler who's very solo queue oriented, so he's
Okay.
trying to backpack the whole team constantly. Um, got like a gold 5 ADC that just is sort of out of practice and doesn't really play as much as we need him to. Um, and basically everyone else on the team is like bronze 5 to bronze 2,
Okay.
just kind of depending on which lane. So they have a lot of work to do.
Okay. And so these are some great things that you can go through and show them.
Yeah,
Especially the
absolutely.
trading stance. Trading stance is okay. So like everyone in the league loves to fight. Uh,
Hmm.
Trading stance is more of a consistent way to do that, where you're not just running up into their minion wave and hoping the fight goes in your way. This is how
Right.
you can actually like set up an advantageous fight in your favor. Helps you hit skill shots, so it is a very um, important thing to understand, especially even for ADCs, especially supports like Thresh, Blitzcrank, Morgana, Zyra.
Hmm.
Um, that's the perfect time to go and like look for your hooks or your roots, especially roots that like pass through minions as well.
Hmm.
Because so if I play this, so I was saying so for some reason. So right here when he's casting that Q, he's kind of locked in an animation for a little bit, and it's a lot
Right.
easier to predict where his movement's going to be, as far as instead of him just kind of like dancing back around. Um, and then so teaching them the trading stance and just kind of talking to them about it, showing them. I'll shoot you a video that I don't know if he came up with the term, but he does such an amazing job of explaining it. That would be great for them to see. Um,
Sweet. Yeah.
and then kind of teaching them about lane control a little bit, especially if they're weaker laners and we're kind of just trying to get them. So maybe they aren't the strongest laners, but they're still perfect. Like we get them on a tank, we get them to team fights. They're able to get the job done. Teaching them how they can let the opponent shove the wave into them. So
Right.
like right here, that's not the greatest example. Well, so for this one, like, so we have this big wave here. If we just leave everything, this wave is going to shove super hard into Darius's turret. And what he can look to do is he just has to take out like the cannon minion and these over here, and the wave will just kind of sit like right here, and
Hmm.
then he can just go back to last hitting normally. And what it does is it makes so let's say you were going to continue to farm, it forces you to come out and opens you up to these gank opens you up to these gank opportunities,
Right.
while it completely makes him almost impossible to gank unless they were going for more of a turret dive, which is
Right. Right.
like that's something that you will see in LCS. At our level, it's farming on your turret is typically especially pre 10 minutes, you're going to be pretty much safe. Um, but something that can happen in higher up levels is if your jungler's right here waiting, the second this giant minion wave crashes into Darius's turret, um, you let the minions take aggro and it lets you get right up inside his turret, and then you can just
Yeah.
look for a dive. And that's one of the biggest plays you can make early on, because especially if he had just teleported back, because it's going to kill him, it's going to get the kill and assist, and then you're going to deny him of all these minions. which is
Right,
the
and then you got
really
support
big part.
back.
You know,
Yeah.
levels and the early CS are just so important. Like missing, early kills, um, especially falling behind on levels early on can be really devastating.
Yeah, for sure. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no
Just
rush.
cool. All right, I'm back.
Sweet. So, and then getting. So I would definitely, if we're gonna like, if you were to start anywhere with, kind of teaching your team some things, laning phase is, it's the start of the game. We're gonna have to. It's gonna be very hard to like not be able to do much in the laning phase and like try to make it to the mid and late game. Everyone's gonna need like a baseline understanding of how to play the laning phase, how to get through like without giving up too much, so we
Yeah.
can actually have a chance once we get into the mid game and late game.
Yeah, my mid laner and my support need that the most. I think the ADC does mostly okay, and the top laner just because I main top, and then my assistant coach, who's like he went like platinum 3 last season.
Okay.
Um, so we give the top laner quite a bit of help. So he's learning, but my mid laner definitely needs like wave management and trading stance, and so
Mhm.
does the support bot lane. Like our support is so passive. Like he doesn't understand what his power points are. So yeah,
Mhm.
like the trading stance stuff and showing that to him in a really concrete, visible way should really help. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's all good stuff for him.
Yeah, especially if he's playing champions like Caitlyn or like Varus, someone with like a little bit longer range.
Hmm.
When you're a range champion, it's even easier to apply the training stance because you don't even necessarily need to be right on the minion. You have a little more wiggle room. You can be kind of like right behind them. Or on Caitlyn, who I've been playing a lot of, your range is so huge. You stand anywhere and you can punish them for taking minions, and that's a lot of where her advantage comes from. Is
Yeah, absolutely.
every time you're trying to go for a minion, I'm just sitting there shooting you in the face, and your range isn't large enough to do anything about it, and so that's why she can have such a strong laning phase. And lane control for a mid laner can be so important because mid lane's always a high priority target. The lane is so short, it's so easy to be overextended and get ganked. There's so many paths for them to come from. They can come from either side, they can come from beside you, they can come from behind you. So understanding how you can freeze the wave when you need to, kind of closer to your turret, can really save you from getting ganked over and over again. Or if you're playing against an assassin and you need a little more support from like being by your turret, being able to understand how you can, set yourself up advantageously can be really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And so look, this is a little more top lane centric. Can be mid lane if some mid laners take TP, but using TP a little bit. So TP advantage is a really big thing, especially in LCS. They're always talking about this guy has TP advantage. They need to be playing carefully. It's definitely like a big strong point. So being able to force someone's, it's a little different if you don't have TP yourself. Like if you're playing Pantheon Ignite,
Right.
maybe you chunk someone down, and right before you get the kill, they back and they TP in. While that is still beneficial, it's not as easy to capitalize on as like your own TP advantage. So right here we just forced Darius to have the TP back, and we have TP advantage right now. And something we could have done with this big wave is you can look to make kind of power plays with a big minion wave, because if he tries to attack you back, he's going to immediately aggro all these minions, and the trade's easily going to go in your favor. So before looking to, I think right here we back away, and then just use our own TP, which is not necessarily bad. It allows us to continue to keep up the pressure, but we could have looked to shove this. So there's two things. We could have looked to go for like an aggressive trade, and it doesn't really matter how much health we lose because we're just going to back and TP back and come back with full health. And so that would have been one way to build an advantage. And the other thing is we want to make sure that we don't let Darius... So when there's a big wave here, this is the situation where he can kind of pull the wave back here a little bit and freeze it close to his turret. So we want to make sure that we shove the wave into the turret and deny him the chance to freeze the wave. It's a little risky because you don't have any wards down here and we aren't quite sure where Jax is. We know he likely started bot side, so we can assume it's very possible that he is top side. So this is one of the situations where lane control can hurt us a little bit, because now we're kind of in this weird situation where we need to shove in the wave to the turret, but we don't actually have the complete wards to do so yet. So something we could do here is kind of dip down, get a ward in the river bush, and then we can look to push up the wave, knowing once we're a little bit safer. But this is a situation where like lane control can put you in a bad situation, because let's say Jax is just sitting here waiting down in river. You look to go push this wave, that's exactly when he's going to come in behind you. So that's where like understanding like lane control and like managing your wave a little bit better. And it was a little interesting how it happened. Is his about to crash? Yeah, Charlotte Wave just got here so much sooner. But you know, but if maybe he was attacking, or I think it was this trade right here, maybe. Oh yeah, so we're here attacking the siege minion. Not necessarily that any of this is wrong, but it's a possible opportunity for us to, or we have the option to let him push the wave towards us, and we could look for a freeze or just be a little safer under our turret. We could also be looking to shove the wave if we were looking to play aggressive. It just depends on the situation and what exactly you're looking for.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, probably the next biggest thing is, especially for your team, like trying to play as a coordinated team. Like in the LCS, solo kills aren't that common. Laners, the biggest thing that happens in lane typically is like CS advantages. The big advantages come through one of the junglers. Junglers are typically the ones roaming all over the map, getting the deep vision down, and setting up the bigger plays. And so being able to, as a team and in solo queue, to understand how the junglers influence like your lane, the map, keeping track of the junglers, understanding what you can do with the information that you have. So right here we see Jax down bot side. So this gives us the go-ahead to, we don't have to play aggressive, but we know now that we have, if we do play aggressive, the jungler's not just going to suddenly show up behind us and look to, and just gank us. So in this situation right here, this might be an opportunity for us where we could look for a tower dive, especially with our ultimate up. We don't have flash, so it is a little risky against Darius, but it is an opportunity we could be looking for. And especially as you're playing Pantheon and you're looking to play these super aggressive early games, so most junglers just automatically start bot side, which is not necessarily bad, but not many junglers even consider the option of starting top side. But what it means is they're likely going to do red buff, maybe they do Raptors, then they hit blue buff, and around 3 minutes when you're just about hitting level 2, maybe level 3, they're looking, they're set up to easily gank topside, which is, if you're playing aggressive and you go for the all-in the second the jungler's coming to your lane, can be, can spell a disaster. And it's, once you give up that first kill as Pantheon, it can be hard to come back and get that same sort of lane pressure.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely something you need to... That's important both in solo queue, but definitely talk to your team about. A big thing that your jungler can do is this term... Do you ever watch like LCK, like SKT, or there's a caster over there, Papa Smithy. He uses this term a lot. It's called battle warding. And especially now with the removal of Tracker's Knife, now that we don't have as much vision, the junglers in the LCK, like the really good junglers, they'll just go slightly into the enemy's jungle, and they'll just kind of, they're not necessarily looking to steal camps, they're just looking to find where the enemy jungler is. And by finding which side of the map the jungler is, it gives so much information to the rest of his team. Let's say Diana moved in here, found Jax. It lets us know that we can play aggressive topside, and it lets mid and bot know that they need to play a little more defensively. And it also lets us know that in about a minute's time, so he's likely down here clearing all his camps. In about a minute, he's likely going to switch back up to his top side. So we know now for like the next 2 minutes where Jax is going to be on the map. And this gives us a lot of freedom to adapt to that and play respectfully and take advantage of that. And so in coordinated play, that can be a really huge determining factor of how the early laning phase goes. Like, who can track the enemy jungler better, who can play more accordingly to where the jungler will be. Because we have like a top laner who's just playing non-stop aggressive, and the jungler just consistently shuts him down. He's always there for ganks. The top laner or jungler are going to come out super far ahead, and it's going to be hard to do anything in the mid and late game. But if we can have him play respectfully, it's a good thing to be able to play aggressive and draw the jungler to your side of the map. But then you also need to play around that accordingly. So if we can draw Jax to the top side of the map to look for a gank, but then we can get out of the gank with, at the minimum or at the maximum, just like blowing our flash. What it does is basically just wastes his time. It doesn't give him a lot of value, and it draws him away from the rest of the map, and they're just able to farm and do whatever they want, knowing that the jungler is elsewhere. Yeah. So understanding how the junglers are going to influence the game early on and how to play around them is going to be a big part, especially for your team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of that comes from, communicating. Like, it all starts off when the bot lane shows up to lane. If they show up late, you can typically assume that the enemy jungler started bot side. And then we know, okay, he's likely going to go... He'll be at the top side of the map in about a minute and a half. And so then top side and mid need to play like there's a chance that they can get ganked from one of these sides. So that means we can play respectful top side. Our mid laner can maybe hug towards the bottom side, since we know that the jungler is somewhere top side. And just gives us... decreases the chance that the enemy jungler is going to come in and pick up an early kill and snowball the game right from the laning phase.
Right.
So especially top side, anytime we're looking to play aggressive, if we aren't like 75% sure where the jungler is, it's almost safer to not look for an extremely aggressive play. And so this a little bit is a little bit of that oh, well, Jax was actually dead at this point. But so let's assume Jax isn't dead right here. Diana has moved into Jax's jungle and is either stealing a camp or is just kind of dropping some vision. Because we don't see Jax here, we need to increase the chances that he's somewhere towards the top side of the map and play accordingly. Second, we see Diana move in, like, okay, she doesn't see Jax, so Jax is likely on the top side of the map. And so, I think those are, if I was going to take, if you're going to approach your team and, like, just start off with the basics, and, like, try to teach everyone the same thing that would have, like, the biggest impact right away. For the laning phase, trading stance, lane control, and understanding how to play around the junglers.
Right.
And so, and there's different elements, like, for the junglers, because you're actually communicating with them. You can tell them, like, hey, you should, you can have pre-plans, like, all right, you're gonna do this, you're gonna come top side and look for a gank. So tracking the enemy jungler is even more important.
Yeah.
And so, have some great videos on those. I can send you that. You like show them and then have some discussion afterwards. Talk about how you all can practice applying those into your own games. And so,
yeah, absolutely.
And definitely into when you're looking to play aggressive early game champions, making sure we have all these things in check and we're using all this available information in our favor is going to help us get that early first blood and snowball the game, get the lead that we need to snowball the game. And then we move into a little bit more of how do we take this lead and close out the game.
Right, absolutely.
Which is not an easy thing to do. So
that's why we're here, right?
Yep, absolutely.